I need to talk to you about what I saw. That's what I should have said 1 year ago, when it would have mattered, when it might have stopped everything. But I didn't. And she destroyed us, methodically, coldly, with calculation I couldn't have imagined. My name is Margaret Walsh. Everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 68 years old, a widow, a retired school teacher, a mother who buried her only son 6 months ago. And 2 weeks ago, I became something else entirely. A witness, a savior, a grandmother fighting for a life that almost wasn't. Let me tell you how a quiet October afternoon turned into the most terrifying 72 hours of my life. It was 5:15 in the afternoon. I know because I had just poured my tea and glanced at the kitchen clock. That old clock that belonged to my mother. The hands always ran 2 minutes fast. She'd never fixed it. Keeps me punctual, she'd say. Now it keeps me company in a house that's too big, too quiet, too full of memories that hurt. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It helps others find these stories. I was standing on the porch of my house, the house where I raised Michael, my only son, the house where his father, Frank, and I celebrated 35 anniversaries before his heart gave out 3 years ago, the house that now echoes with absence. Meridian Lake shimmered in front of me, still as a mirror. October in Wisconsin means the tourists are gone. The summer people have closed their cabins. It's just us year-rounders left. Me and the water and the trees turning gold and red. It was hot, unseasonably hot. The kind of sticky heat that makes you sweat under your blouse even when you're standing still. Indian summer, they call it. One last gasp of warmth before winter comes to bury everything in white. I took a sip of tea. Earl Grey, too hot. It burned my tongue. I should have waited. But I'm impatient. Always have been. Frank used to tease me about it. Then I saw her. Vanessa's silver Honda Accord appeared on the dirt road. That old fishing road that runs along the east side of the lake. The one Michael and I used to walk when he was a boy. Back when we'd fish off the old pier. Back when life was simple. The car was moving too fast, way too fast for that road, kicking up a cloud of dust that hung in the still air like smoke. Something was wrong, very wrong. I knew that road, knew every rut, every curve, every spot where the gravel gave way to sand. You don't drive 40 miles an hour on it, not unless you're running from something, or towards something worse. She slammed on the brakes right by the lake's edge. The tires skidded, gravel sprayed. The dust cloud enveloped the car for a moment, then drifted away. I dropped my teacup. It shattered against the porch floor, ceramic shards and Earl Grey everywhere, but I didn't care, didn't even look down. My eyes were glued to that car, to her. Vanessa jumped out of the driver's seat like she'd been ejected, like something inside was chasing her. The door hung open. The engine was still running. I could hear it from 100 yards away. She was wearing a gray dress, the one Michael had given her for their second anniversary. I remembered because I'd been there when he bought it. Nordstrom. $200. He'd been so proud. She's going to love this, Mom. But that day the dress was wrinkled, stained. Her dark hair, usually so perfectly styled, hung in tangles around her face that was red, blotchy, like she'd been crying, or screaming, or both. She opened the trunk with so much force I thought the hinges would break. Her movements were jerky, panicked, the movements of someone who's run out of time, and then I saw it, the suitcase. That damned brown leather suitcase I had given her myself when she married my son 4 years ago. So you can carry your dreams everywhere, I'd told her at the wedding reception. We'd been standing by the cake table. She'd smiled, thanked me, kissed my cheek. How stupid I was. How naive. Vanessa pulled the suitcase out of the trunk. It was heavy. I could tell by the way her whole body stooped, by the way her arms trembled, by the way she had to use both hands and her knee to lever it out. What could be that heavy? Clothes? Books? Her whole body was shaking with the effort. She glanced around, nervous, scared, guilty. That look? I will never forget that look. The look of someone who knows they're doing something terrible. The look of someone who's past the point of no return. Then she walked toward the water's edge, dragging the suitcase behind her. Every step seemed to be a struggle, like she was carrying the weight of the world or something much, much worse. "Vanessa!" I shouted from the porch, but I was too far away, 100 yards, maybe more, and the wind was wrong. My voice didn't carry, or maybe she didn't want to hear me. She reached the edge of the lake, the old boat launch where the concrete slope meets the water, where Michael and I used to put the canoe in when he was small. Vanessa lifted the suitcase, struggled with it, swung it once, twice. On the third swing, she threw it into the lake. The sound of the impact cut through the air like a gunshot. Birds scattered from the trees. The water splashed up, catching the late afternoon light. And she just stood there, watching, as the suitcase floated for a moment, the leather darkening as it absorbed water, sinking slowly, inevitably. Then she ran back to the car like the devil himself was chasing her, got in, didn't even close the trunk, just threw it in reverse. The tires screamed. She fishtailed on the gravel, almost hit a tree, didn't care, just accelerated down that dirt road like her life depended on speed. The dust cloud swallowed her, and she was gone. I stood on my porch, frozen. 10 seconds. 20. 30. My brain was trying to process what I'd just seen. Vanessa, the suitcase, the lake, the desperation in her movements, the panic, the guilt. What the fuck just happened? That was the first time I'd cursed out loud in probably 5 years since Frank's funeral, when the pastor said he was in a better place. Better than being with me. I'd muttered it under my breath then. Now I said it loud. To the empty air, to the lake, to God if he was listening. Something was terribly wrong. I felt a chill run down my spine despite the heat. My legs started moving before my mind could stop them. I ran. I ran like I hadn't run in years. My knees protested immediately, arthritis flaring. My chest burned. My breath came in gasps. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. I ran down the porch steps, across the yard, my sandals slapping against the grass, onto the dirt road, dust in my mouth, in my eyes. Didn't matter. The lake was about 100 yards away. Maybe less, maybe more. I don't know. Distance becomes meaningless when terror takes over. When I reached the shore, I was out of breath. My heart was pounding against my ribs so hard I thought it might break through. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. The suitcase was still there, still floating, but sinking, slowly sinking. The leather was soaked now, dark, heavy with water. I waded into the lake without a second thought. The water was cold, so much colder than I expected. It came up to my ankles, my knees, my thighs. The mud at the bottom sucked at my feet with every step. I almost lost a sandal. I stretched out my arms, reached for the suitcase, the strap, just barely. My fingers brushed it. I lunged forward. The water came up to my waist, so cold it took my breath away, but I grabbed the strap, got both hands on it, pulled. God, it was heavy, incredibly heavy, like it was filled with rocks, or worse. Please, God, don't let it be worse. I pulled harder. My arms were shaking. The water splashed my face. My clothes were completely soaked. The cold was seeping into my bones. Finally, the suitcase gave way, started moving toward me. I backed up, dragging it through the water, through the mud, toward the shore. And then I heard it. A sound, faint, muffled, coming from inside the suitcase, a cry or a moan or something alive, something breathing, something dying. My blood ran cold, colder than the lake water. No, it couldn't be. Please, God, don't let it be what I'm thinking. I pulled faster, more desperately. My heart was hammering. My vision was blurring with tears. I didn't know I was crying. I dragged the suitcase onto the wet sand of the shore, fell to my knees beside it. My hands fumbled for the zipper. It was stuck, wet, rusted. My fingers kept slipping. Come on, come on, come on. I repeated through clenched teeth. Tears were falling now, blurring everything. I forced the zipper once, twice. It gave a little, stuck again. I pulled with everything I had. The zipper burst open. The suitcase lid flew back, and what I saw inside made the entire world stop. My heart stopped beating. The air caught in my throat. My hands flew to my mouth to stifle a scream that would have shattered the silence of the lake. There, wrapped in a soaked light blue blanket, was a baby. A newborn, so small, so fragile, so still. His lips were purple. His skin was pale as wax, almost translucent. His eyes were closed, tiny eyelids like paper. He wasn't moving, not even breathing that I could see. Oh my God, oh my God. No, 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 no. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold him. I lifted him out of the suitcase with a gentleness I didn't know I still had. Muscle memory from 38 years ago when Michael was born. He was so cold, ice cold. He weighed almost nothing. His little head fit in the palm of my hand. So delicate, so breakable. His umbilical cord was still attached, tied with a piece of string, not a medical clamp, not proper medical supplies, just string, plain white string, like someone had done this at home in secret without any help. No, 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 no. I pressed my ear to his tiny chest. Silence. Nothing. No heartbeat, no breath, nothing. Then I pressed my cheek against his nose, against his mouth, hoping, praying, begging, and I felt it. A puff of air. So faint I thought I'd imagined it, but it was there. He was breathing, barely, but breathing. He was alive. I stood up, clutching the baby to my chest. My legs nearly gave out. The world tilted. But I stayed upright. Had to. Had to get him help. Had to save him. I ran toward the house, faster than I'd ever run in my life. Water dripped from my clothes. My bare feet bled from the stones on the path. But I felt no pain, only terror, only desperate urgency, only the need to save this tiny life trembling against me. I burst into the house screaming. I don't know what I was screaming. Maybe help, maybe God, maybe nothing coherent. Just sound, raw and primal and terrified. I grabbed the kitchen phone with one hand while holding the baby with the other. My fingers slipped on the buttons. The phone almost fell twice. I steadied myself against the counter. 911. 911, what's your emergency? A female voice, young, professional, calm. A baby, I sobbed. The words came out broken, desperate. I found a baby in the lake. He's not responding. He's cold. He's purple. Please, please send help. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and tell me your address. I gave her my address. The words tumbled out. She repeated it back to me. Okay, help is on the way. Now I need you to listen to me carefully. Where is the baby now? In my arms. I'm holding him. Is he breathing? I don't know, barely. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, I need you to put the baby on a flat surface. Can you do that? I looked around wildly. The kitchen table was covered with mail, newspapers, a half-eaten sandwich from lunch. I swept everything off with one arm. Everything crashed to the floor. Plates shattered, papers flew, didn't matter. Nothing mattered except this baby. I laid him on the table. So small, so still, so lifeless looking. Okay, he's on the table. Good, now look at his chest. Is it moving, even a little? I leaned down, stared at his tiny chest. There, yes, a movement. So subtle I had to hold my breath to see it. A tiny rise and fall. Yes, I think so. Very little, very small. Okay, that's good. That's very good. Now I need you to get a clean towel and dry the baby very carefully. Then wrap him up to keep him warm. The ambulance is 7 minutes away. I ran to the bathroom, grabbed towels. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold them. Ran back to the kitchen. I dried his tiny body with clumsy, desperate movements. Every second felt like an hour. His skin was so pale, so cold, like touching marble. I wrapped him in clean towels, picked him up again, cradled him against my chest, started rocking him without realizing it, an ancient instinct I thought I'd forgotten. Hang on, I whispered to him. Please hang on. They're coming. They're coming to help you. You're not alone. I've got you. Someone's here. Someone wants you to live. The minutes it took for the ambulance to arrive were the longest of my life. I sat on the kitchen floor with the baby against my chest. I sang. I don't know what I sang. Maybe the same lullaby I used to sing to Michael when he was little. Maybe just meaningless sounds. I just needed him to know he wasn't alone, that someone was holding him, that someone cared if he lived or died. The sirens broke the silence. Red and white lights flashed through the windows. I ran to the door. 2 paramedics rushed out. A man in his 50s with a gray beard. A woman maybe 30 with dark hair tied back in a ponytail. She took the baby from my arms with an efficiency that broke my heart. She didn't waste time with questions, just checked him. Stethoscope, listened. Her face showed no emotion, but I saw her shoulders tense. Severe hypothermia, possible water aspiration, newborn maybe 2 or 3 days old. We need to move now. They placed him on a tiny gurney, put an oxygen mask over his face. It looked enormous on his tiny features. Connected wires, monitors, things I didn't understand. Their hands worked fast. Professional, practiced. The man looked at me. You're coming with us. It wasn't a question. I got into the ambulance, sat on the small side seat. Couldn't stop staring at the baby, so small among all that equipment. Tubes and wires and machines beeping, fighting for his life. The ambulance took off, sirens wailing, the world blurred past the windows. How did you find him? The female paramedic asked as she continued to work. In a suitcase, in the lake. I saw someone throw it in. She looked up, stared at me, then at her partner. I saw something in her eyes, worry, suspicion, pity, horror, all of it mixed together. Did you see who it was? I opened my mouth, closed it. Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, my son's widow. The woman who cried at Michael's funeral like her world had ended. The same woman who had just tried to drown a baby. How could I say that? How could I even believe it? Yes, I finally said. I saw who it was. We arrived at General Hospital in less than 15 minutes. The emergency room doors flew open. A dozen people in white and green scrubs surrounded the gurney. They were shouting numbers, medical terms, orders, things I couldn't understand. They rushed the baby through a set of double doors. I tried to follow, but a nurse stopped me. Ma'am, you need to stay here. The doctors are working. We need some information from you. She led me to a waiting room. Cream-colored walls, plastic chairs, the smell of disinfectant and fear. I sat down. I was shivering from head to toe, from the cold, from shock, from everything. The nurse sat across from me. She was older than the paramedic, maybe my age. She had kind wrinkles around her eyes. Her name tag said Helen. I'm going to need you to tell me everything that happened, she said in a soft voice, not demanding, just there, present, calm. And I told her every detail, from the moment I saw Vanessa's car until I opened the suitcase. Helen took notes on a tablet, nodded, didn't interrupt. When I finished, she sighed deeply. "The police will want to talk to you," she said. "This is attempted murder, maybe worse." Attempted murder. The words hung in the air like blackbirds circling. My daughter-in-law, my son's wife, a murderer. I couldn't process it, couldn't understand it, couldn't accept it. Helen put her hand on mine. "You did the right thing. You saved a life today." But it didn't feel like that. It felt like I had uncovered something terrible, something I couldn't push back into the darkness, something that would change everything forever. 2 hours passed before a doctor came out. He was young, maybe 35, dark circles under his eyes, hands that smelled like antibacterial soap. "The baby is stable, Heiss," he said. "For now, he's in the neonatal intensive care unit. He suffered severe hypothermia. He aspirated water. His lungs are compromised. The next 48 hours are critical." "Is he going to live?" I asked. My voice sounded broken even to my own ears. "I don't know," he said with brutal honesty. "We're doing everything we can." I nodded. What else could I do? The police arrived half an hour later. 2 officers. A woman in her 40s with her hair in a tight bun. A younger man who took notes. The woman introduced herself as Detective Rosa Martinez. She had dark eyes that seemed to see right through lies. They asked me questions, the same questions over and over from different angles. I described the car, the exact time, Vanessa's movements, the suitcase, everything. Rosa stared at me with an intensity that made me feel guilty, even though I'd done nothing wrong. "And you're absolutely certain it was your daughter-in-law?" "Yes, completely certain." "Why would she do something like that?" "I don't know." "Where is she now?" "I don't know." "When was the last time you spoke to her before today?" I thought about it. 3 weeks ago, on the anniversary of my son's death, October 1st. Rosa wrote something down, exchanged a look with her partner. "We're going to need you to come to the station tomorrow to make a formal statement. And you cannot contact Vanessa under any circumstances. Do you understand?" I nodded. What was I going to say to her anyway? Why did you try to kill a baby? Why did you throw him in the lake like trash? Why? The officers left. Helen came back with a blanket and a cup of hot tea. Earl Grey. She must have asked someone what kind I liked. "You should go home, get some rest, change your clothes." But I couldn't leave. Couldn't leave that baby alone in the hospital. That baby I had held against my chest, who had breathed his last gasps of hope in my arms. I stayed in the waiting room. Helen brought me dry clothes from hospital storage, nurse's pants and a t-shirt that was way too big. I changed in the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like I had aged 10 years in one afternoon. I didn't sleep that night, just sat in that plastic chair watching the clock. Every hour I got up and asked about the baby. The nurses gave me the same answer: stable, critical, fighting. At 3 in the morning, Father O'Brien showed up, the priest from my church. Someone must have called him. He sat next to me in silence. Didn't say anything for a long time, just there, a presence. Proof that I wasn't completely alone in hell. "God tests us in many ways," he finally said. "This doesn't feel like a test," I replied. "It feels like a curse." He nodded. Didn't try to convince me otherwise. I appreciated that more than any sermon. When the sun began to rise, I knew that nothing would ever be the same. I had crossed a line, seen something I couldn't unsee, and whatever came next, I would have to face it. Because that baby, that tiny being fighting for every breath in the next room, had become my responsibility. I hadn't chosen it, but I couldn't abandon him either, not after pulling him from the water, not after feeling his heartbeat against mine. The sunrise came slowly, light streaming through the waiting room windows, painting everything a pale orange. Outside, the world was waking up, people going to work, living normal lives, while I sat in this hospital, guarding a life that almost wasn't. Helen appeared at 7 with coffee and a sandwich wrapped in foil. "You need to eat something," she said, putting it in my hands. I wasn't hungry, but I ate anyway, because she stood there waiting. The coffee was too hot and burned my tongue. The sandwich tasted like cardboard. But I swallowed, chewed, pretended I was a normal person doing normal things on a normal morning. "The baby is still stable," Helen said, sitting next to me. "His body temperature is rising. His lungs are responding to treatment. It's a good sign." "Can I see him?" She shook her head. "Not yet. Only immediate family, and we don't even know who the family is." Family. The word hit me like a stone. That baby had to have a family. A mother? Vanessa? But she had tried to kill him. So who was the father? Where was he? Why hadn't anyone reported him missing? The questions piled up in my head with no answers. At 9, Rosa came back. She was alone this time. She sat across from me with a folder in her hands. Her expression was hard, inquisitive. She looked at me like I was the suspect. "Maggie, I need to ask you a few more questions." "I already told you everything I know." "I know, but some inconsistencies have come up." Inconsistencies? The word floated between us like an accusation. I felt my stomach tighten. "What kind of inconsistencies?" Rosa pulled out a photograph, placed it on the small table between us. It was Vanessa's car, but it was in a parking lot, not by the lake. This photo was taken by a security camera at a supermarket 30 miles from here. Yesterday at 5:20 in the afternoon. 5:20. 10 minutes after I saw her by the lake. Impossible. I looked at the photo more closely. It was her car, same silver Honda, same license plate. Everything matched. "There must be a mistake," I said. "I saw her. I was there. I saw her throw the suitcase." "Are you completely sure it was Vanessa? How close were you?" I swallowed hard. 100 yards, maybe more. I saw her from behind most of the time, but the gray dress, the dark hair, the silver car, I was sure. Rosa leaned forward. "Maggie, I need you to be honest with me. What is your relationship with Vanessa? Do you get along?" And there it was, the real question, the one I'd been waiting for since the police showed up. Because we didn't get along. We had never gotten along. From the day Michael introduced me to her 4 years ago, I knew something was wrong. She was too perfect, too polished, too interested in the fact that Michael was an engineer making $95,000 a year, too interested in his investment accounts, his life insurance policy. I'd tried to tell Michael, gently, carefully. "Are you sure about her, honey? She seems, I don't know, calculating." He'd laughed. "Mom, you think everyone I date is calculating. You did the same thing with Jennifer in college." And he was right. I had. Because mothers worry. Mothers see things. Mothers want to protect their children even when they're grown. "We're not close," I admitted to Rosa. "We never were." "Do you blame her for your son's death?" "What?" My voice was too loud, too defensive. "What does that have to do with anything?" "It's a simple question. Do you blame Vanessa for Michael's death?" The accident. That's what everyone called it. Michael was driving home after dinner with Vanessa. It was raining. The car skidded, hit a tree. Michael died on impact. Vanessa walked away with minor scratches. It had always seemed strange to me. Convenient, but I'd never had proof. Just a heartbroken mother looking for someone to blame. "I don't see what that has to do with the baby," I said. "It has everything to do with it," Rosa said, closing the folder. "Because we haven't been able to locate Vanessa. She's vanished. Her house is empty, her phone is off, and you are the only person who claims to have seen her yesterday." Her words fell on me like ice water. She was accusing me, not directly, but the insinuation was there, clear as day. She thought I had made it all up, that I had found the baby some other way and was blaming Vanessa out of revenge. I didn't lie. I said through clenched teeth, I saw what I saw. Then we need to find Vanessa, and fast, because if she's that baby's mother, he's in serious danger. And if she's not, then we have an even bigger mystery on our hands. Rosa stood up, handed me a card with her number. If you remember anything else, any detail, call me. She left, leaving me with more questions than answers. I sat there with the card in my hand, wondering if I was losing my mind. I had seen Vanessa, I was sure of it, but now doubt was seeping in like poison. What if I had been wrong? What if it was someone else? What if my grief and resentment had made me see what I wanted to see? Father O'Brien returned at noon. He held a rosary in his hands. Shall we pray? I'm not very religious. Never was. But at that moment, I needed something bigger than myself. Something to tell me I wasn't alone in this. I nodded. We prayed together in low voices. The familiar words calmed me, even if I didn't understand how they worked. When we finished, I told him what Rosa had said, about the photo, about the doubt. The truth always comes to light, he replied, even if it takes time. But we didn't have time. That baby was fighting for his life. And somewhere Vanessa was hiding, or running, or planning her next move. At 3 in the afternoon, a different doctor came to see me. A woman this time, older, thick glasses, serious expression. We need your consent to run some tests on the baby, she said. I'm not family. We know, but you're the only responsible person right now. Social services is on the way. But in the meantime, we need to act. The baby needs blood tests. We need to know if he has any medical conditions. If he was exposed to drugs. If he has injuries we haven't detected. I signed the papers, didn't even read them completely, just wanted them to do whatever was necessary to save him. 2 hours later, the social worker showed up. Her name was Karen. She was young. Too young for that job, I thought. Maybe 28. Short hair, gray suit, a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mrs. Walsh, she said, sitting next to me, I need to ask you some questions about your situation. The story again, the questions again, but Karen was different. She didn't look at me with suspicion. She looked at me with pity, which was worse somehow. Do you live alone? Yes. Do you have a stable income? I have my late husband's pension and some savings. Criminal record? No. Mental health issues, depression, anxiety? I hesitated. After Michael died, I had taken antidepressants for 3 months. My doctor said it was normal. That grief sometimes needs chemical help. I stopped when I started to feel better. I had depression after my son died, but it's managed now. Karen wrote something down. I couldn't see what. The baby will need a temporary home when he's released from the hospital. If he's released. Social services will look for certified foster families. In the meantime, he will remain in state custody. State custody. Those words broke something inside me. That baby I had held against my chest, who had breathed his first breath of life in my arms, was going to be handed over to strangers, to a system, to people who would see him as just another case file, just another number. What if I wanted to? The words came out before I could stop them. What if I wanted to take care of him? Karen looked at me surprised, then skeptical. Mrs. Walsh, you're 68 years old. You're not a certified foster parent. You have no legal relationship to the baby. And you're involved in an active criminal investigation. I didn't do anything wrong. I saved his life. I know, but the system has protocols. The child's best interest comes first. And frankly, your age and your recent emotional situation are factors we have to consider. I felt like I'd been slapped. Too old, too unstable, too broken. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was crazy to even think about it. But when I closed my eyes, all I saw was that fragile little body, and I knew that no one else in the world would love him like I could. That night, I went home for the first time in 36 hours. Helen convinced me. She said I needed to shower, to sleep in a real bed, that the baby would be fine, that they would call me if anything changed. I drove home as the sun was setting. The lake shimmered to my right. I stopped at the same spot where I had seen Vanessa, where I had pulled out the suitcase. I got out of the car, walked to the shore. The suitcase was gone. The police had taken it as evidence, but I could see exactly where it had been. I could see my own footprints in the dried mud. I stood there as darkness fell, wondering if I would ever know the truth, wondering if Vanessa was watching from somewhere, wondering what the hell had really happened. And then my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Mrs. Walsh? A man's voice. Professional. Serious. Yes? This is Dr. Alan Mendez. I'm a specialist in forensic genetics. I work with the hospital. I need you to come back. Right away. We got the results of the baby's DNA test, and there's something you need to know. My heart stopped. Is he okay? Is the baby okay? The baby is stable, but Mrs. Walsh, the results are unexpected. Please come back, now. I got back in my car, drove to the hospital, breaking every speed limit. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. My mind raced with possibilities. DNA test. Why had they done a DNA test? What were they looking for? I parked crookedly, taking up 2 spots, ran toward the emergency room doors. Helen was waiting for me at the entrance. Her expression was serious. They're in the conference room, 3rd floor. I took the elevator. It moved too slowly. Each floor felt like an eternity. When the doors opened, Helen led me down hallways I didn't recognize. Finally, we reached a small conference room. Inside were Rosa, Karen, and a man I didn't know. He was older, maybe 60. Dark suit, glasses, the face of a scientist or a lawyer. Please sit down, Rosa said, pointing to a chair. I sat. My legs felt like jelly. Everyone was looking at me with an intensity that made me want to run. We received the results of the baby's DNA test, Rosa said. Her words fell like stones in still water. I waited, heart pounding. Rosa opened a folder, took out several papers, placed them in front of me. Numbers, charts, scientific terms I didn't understand. The baby is a boy. He was born approximately 3 days ago, according to medical tests. I nodded. Already knew that. Rosa paused. The silence stretched. Unbearable. And Magyar, he's your grandson. The world stopped. The words didn't make sense. I heard them, but my brain refused to process them. What? The man in the suit spoke for the first time. I'm Dr. Alan Mendez, specialist in forensic genetics. We ran the test twice to be certain. The baby shares approximately 25% of his DNA with you. He is definitively your biological grandson. Son of your son, Michael. Son of Michael. My Michael, my dead son who died 6 months ago. I felt as if someone had hit me in the chest with a hammer. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't speak. That's impossible, I whispered. Michael died 6 months ago. Vanessa never said anything about a pregnancy. Exactly, Rosa said, leaning forward. Vanessa was pregnant during the accident. According to our calculations, she became pregnant about 1 month before Michael's death, which means she knew. She knew she was pregnant when Michael died. The room was spinning. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. Michael had a son he never knew about, A son someone had tried to drown in a lake. I don't understand, I said. Tears started to blur my vision. Why didn't she say anything? Why did she hide the pregnancy for 9 months? Why did she give birth in secret? Why did she try to kill her own son? That's what we need to find out, Rosa said. But there's more, Maggie. I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. I braced myself. Didn't know for what, but I knew what was coming would be worse. We've been investigating your son's accident, and there are inconsistencies, big inconsistencies. What kind of inconsistencies? Rosa pulled out another envelope, opened it, spread several printed sheets on the table. Michael's car was examined after the accident. The official report said it was a skid due to rain, but we asked for it to be checked again. By a different team, they found evidence of tampering with the brakes. The word landed like a bomb. Tampering, sabotage, murder. My son hadn't died in an accident. He had been murdered. Vanessa, I said. It wasn't a question. She's our prime suspect, Rosa admitted. But we need proof, and we need to find her. She has completely disappeared. She hasn't used her phone. She hasn't touched her bank accounts. It's like she vanished into thin air. I stood up from the chair. I needed to move. I needed air. I walked to the window. Outside, the city glittered with millions of lights. Normal life, normal people, while I was trapped in this nightmare. My son, I whispered against the glass. My baby. She killed him. No one answered. There was nothing to say. I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Karen. There's something else you need to know about the baby, about his future. I turned around. Her eyes were kind, but sad. Given that the baby is your biological grandson, you have legal rights. You can petition for custody, but she raised a hand before I could speak. It will be a long process. There will be evaluations, home visits, psychological interviews, and in the meantime, the baby will remain in state care. No, the word came out like a roar. You're not taking him from me. He's all I have left of Michael. He's my grandson, my blood. I'm not letting strangers raise him. I understand, Karen said. Believe me, I do. But the system has protocols. And after everything that's happened, we need to ensure the baby is safe. He'll be safer with me than with any stranger. Maybe, but that decision isn't up to me. It's up to a judge and the well-being of the child. Dr. Mendez spoke for the first time since his initial revelation. There's another factor we must consider. The baby suffered severe trauma, hypothermia, near drowning. The next few weeks will be critical for his development. He will need specialized care, therapy, constant medical follow-up. I'll do whatever it takes, I said. Anything. Rosa stood up. Maggie, I need you to understand something. You're not a suspect. We believe your story. But you also can't just keep the baby because he's your grandson. There's a legal process. And in the meantime, our priority is finding Vanessa. We need your help. How? Think. Did Vanessa ever mention a special place? Any property? Any friend or relative she might be hiding with? I closed my eyes, thought about all the conversations I'd had with Vanessa during the 4 years she was married to Michael. They were few, superficial. She never talked about her family. She never mentioned her past. It was as if she had appeared out of nowhere the day she met Michael. She has an aunt, I said suddenly. Up north, near the Canadian border. Michael mentioned her once. He said Vanessa grew up with her after her parents died. Rosa wrote it down quickly. Name? I don't know. Michael never said. It's a start, Rosa said. We'll look into it. They all left, except Helen. She stayed with me in that cold, empty conference room. Do you want to see your grandson? She asked. I nodded, unable to speak. She took me through security doors to the neonatal intensive care unit. made me wash my hands, put on a sterile gown. Then she led me to an incubator in the corner. And there he was, my grandson, Michael's son, so small, so fragile, hooked up to tubes and wires but alive, breathing, fighting. He had Michael's dark hair, Michael's nose, Michael's long fingers. "Can I touch him?" I whispered. "Yes, just be gentle." I reached my hand through the opening in the incubator, touched his tiny hand. It was so soft, so warm now. Not the ice-cold marble from the lake. His little fingers closed around my index finger. A reflex, but it felt like a promise. "Hello, little one," I whispered. "I'm your grandma, and I promise I'm going to protect you. No one is ever going to hurt you again. I swear it on your father's memory." Helen put her hand on my shoulder. "He needs a name for the hospital records. Until we find the mother, or until a judge decides. A name." Michael had wanted to name his first son after my father, Ethan. He told me once during a Christmas dinner 3 years ago, "If I ever have a son, I'll name him Ethan, after Grandpa." "Ethan," I said. "His name is Ethan." I stayed there all night, sitting by the incubator, holding his hand, singing him the songs I used to sing to Michael, promising him a future I didn't know if I could give him, but promising it anyway, because now I knew the truth. This baby wasn't a stranger I had found by chance. He was my blood, my family, all that was left of my murdered son, and I wasn't going to let anyone take him from me. Not the system, not Vanessa, not anyone. The following days were a bureaucratic hell. I woke up every morning at 5, showered, got dressed, drove to the hospital, spent the day by Ethan's incubator, and in the afternoons the visits came. Lawyers, social workers, police officers, all with folders, all with questions, all deciding if I was good enough to raise my own grandson. Karen showed up on the third day with a list of requirements. She read it in a monotone voice as if she were reciting an appliance instruction manual. "You'll need a criminal background check, a full psychological evaluation, a medical exam, verification of income, home inspection, personal references from at least 3 non-family members, and you need to complete a 40-hour child care course." 40 hours. As if I hadn't raised a son myself. As if I didn't know how to change a diaper or prepare a bottle. But I said nothing, just nodded and took the papers she handed me. "How long will all this take?" I asked. "If you're lucky, 6 weeks. If not, 3 months?" 3 months. Ethan would be in foster homes for 3 months while I jumped through bureaucratic hoops to prove I deserved to raise him. And what about him in the meantime, when he's discharged from the hospital? He will go to a certified temporary foster family. He will receive proper care. You can visit him twice a week, under supervision. Twice a week, under supervision, as if I were a threat, as if I was the one who had tried to kill him. That night, I called Father O'Brien. I needed references. I needed people who would say I wasn't crazy, that I was fit, that I could do this. He came to my house the next day, sat in my kitchen, drinking the same tea I used to make for Michael when he was a boy. "Of course I'll help you," he said. "You're one of the strongest women I know. That child is lucky to have you." But I didn't feel strong. I felt old, tired, scared. I was 68 years old. How was I going to chase a 2-year-old when I was 70? How was I going to help him with homework when I was 75? How was I going to be there for his graduation if I made it to 80? "I'm too old for this," I said out loud for the first time. Father O'Brien looked at me over his cup. "Sarah was 90 years old when she gave birth to Isaac. Age is just a number when there's love involved." I wanted to believe him. I really did. On the 4th day, Helen taught me how to care for Ethan, how to support his little head, how to change his tiny diapers, how to prepare formula to the exact temperature. My hands trembled at first. I had forgotten how fragile newborns were, how dependent, how terrifyingly delicate. "You're doing great," Helen would say every time I panicked, but it didn't feel great. It felt like walking on thin ice. One wrong move and everything would shatter. On the fifth day, Rosa returned with news. "We found Vanessa's aunt. She lives in a small town 100 miles from the Canadian border. We went to question her. And she hasn't seen Vanessa in 2 years. Says they had a fight, that Vanessa owed her money. $3,000, never paid her back. Money. It always came back to money with Vanessa." "Did she collect the insurance?" I asked. Rosa nodded. "4 months ago, $200,000 deposited into her account. 2 weeks later, she transferred it all to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. We're trying to track it, but it's complicated." $200,000. The value of my son's life. And she had hidden it in some tax haven while planning to kill his baby. "Why?" I said, the question that tormented me every night. Why kill the baby? She could have given him up for adoption. She could have left him at a hospital. Why try to drown him? Rosa was quiet for a long moment. "There's a theory. We've been investigating Michael's finances. We found something interesting. 2 weeks before he died, he changed his will. He left everything to his future children. Not to Vanessa, to his children." The air left my lungs. Michael knew. Somehow he knew Vanessa was pregnant, and he changed his will to protect his son. "She killed him for money," I whispered. "And then she found out the money would go to the baby if he was born alive. So she decided to eliminate him too." "That's our theory," Rosa said. "But we need proof, and we need to find her." "Do you have enough to arrest her? When you find her?" "When we find her, yes. We have the mechanic. Carlos Medina, he confessed. Vanessa paid him $2,000 to sabotage Michael's brakes. He's in custody, waiting for trial. And with your testimony about the suitcase and the baby's DNA, yes. When we find her, she's not getting away." But would they find her? She had planned everything so carefully. Michael's murder, the pregnancy hidden for 9 months, the birth in secret, the attempt to drown the baby, the escape. She was smart, cold, calculating, and she was out there somewhere free, while my son was dead, while his baby fought for his life. 6 weeks after finding Ethan in the lake, Karen appeared at the hospital with a small smile. "You've completed all the requirements," she said. "The judge will review your case next week. If all goes well, you could have temporary custody in 2 weeks." 2 weeks. After 42 days of bureaucratic hell, I could finally take my grandson home. But that same night, when everything seemed to be getting better, my phone rang. Unknown number. I usually didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" Silence, breathing, then a voice I recognized immediately. "Maggie." "Vanessa." My blood ran cold. I almost dropped the phone. I looked around my living room as if she could be hiding in the shadows. "Where are you?" I managed to say. "It doesn't matter where I am. What matters is I have something you want, and you have something I want." "You have nothing I want." "I have the truth. About what really happened to Michael, about why I did what I did. I bet you want to know." "I already know the truth. I read Michael's journal. I know you killed him for money. I know you're a monster." A cold laugh. Humorless. "A monster. How dramatic." "You don't know anything, Maggie. Michael wasn't the saint you think he was." "Don't you dare," I roared. "Don't you dare speak ill of my son." "Okay, you're going to call the police. Go ahead. By the time they trace this call, I'll be long gone. I use burner phones. I'm not stupid." My mind was racing. I had to keep her talking. I fumbled for my cell phone with my free hand, started recording. "What do you want, Vanessa?" "I want my son. Your son? You tried to drown him. It was a mistake, a moment of insanity. I was scared, confused. I had just given birth alone. I didn't know what I was doing. But I'm better now. I want my baby back. Never. I'd die first. That can be arranged, she said with chilling calmness. Listen carefully. I want Ethan, and I want the money, the $200,000 from the insurance, plus everything Michael left in a trust for the baby. That's another $300,000, $500,000 total. $500,000. Everything Michael had worked for, everything he had saved, all meant for his son. And if I refuse, then I'll come for him. I'm his biological mother. Legally, I have more rights than you. And when they finally catch me, I'm going to say you stole my baby, that you threatened me, that you made up the whole story about the lake to keep him. My word against yours, and I'm much younger, more believable, more sympathetic. I felt sick, but I kept recording. How do I know you won't kill us both and take everything anyway? You don't, but it's your only choice. Bring the baby and the money to the old warehouse by the lake. You know the one, where you and Michael used to fish. Tomorrow at midnight, alone. If I see any cops, I disappear. And you'll never see me again. And eventually, I'll find a way to take Ethan from you anyway. Vanessa, wait. But the line was already dead. I sat there, trembling, with Ethan sleeping in his crib in the next room, with the phone in one hand and the recording in the other. I had evidence. I had proof that Vanessa was alive, that she had threatened me. I called Rosa immediately, sent her the audio. Perfect, she said. This is exactly what we needed. Now we're going to set a trap. You're going to go to that meeting, but we'll be there, hidden, waiting, and when she shows up, we'll get her. What if something goes wrong? What if she sees the police and runs again? She won't see us, I promise you. I'll have snipers in position, teams in the shadows. She's not getting away this time. And Ethan. Ethan stays with Helen, in a safe place. You're not taking him. You're just going to pretend you brought him. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. One more day. I just had to survive one more day. And then Vanessa would finally face justice. For Michael, for Ethan, for all the pain she had caused. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake watching Ethan sleep, memorizing every detail of his face, just in case something went wrong, in case I never saw him again. Your daddy loved you, I whispered to him, and I love you, and tomorrow we're going to make sure you're safe forever. The next day passed in slow motion. Every minute felt like an hour, every hour like an eternity. At 9 a.m, Helen came for Ethan. I packed his bag, diapers, formula, extra clothes, his favorite blanket. My hands trembled as I put each item in the bag. He'll be perfectly fine with me, Helen said, taking Ethan in her arms. I have your number. The police have my address. No one is going to touch him. I promise. I kissed Ethan on the forehead. His soft skin smelled of baby lotion and hope. I love you, little one, I whispered. Grandma will be back soon. I watched them leave. Helen's car disappeared down the street, and I felt like a piece of my soul was being torn away. But it was necessary. Ethan had to be far away, safe, just in case things went wrong. Rosa arrived at 2 p.m. with 3 other officers, 2 men and a woman, all in plain clothes, all armed. They turned my living room into a command center, laptops, radios, maps of the area around the warehouse. Let's go over the plan again, Rosa said, spreading a map on my dining table. The warehouse was abandoned. 5 years empty, 3 entrances, main, side, rear. They would have teams covering all 3. I would enter through the main entrance at midnight. Exactly. Snipers would be on the roofs of adjacent buildings. They would have a clear view of the interior through the broken windows. Assault teams in the back. ready to move in the moment they had visual confirmation of Vanessa. And what exactly do? I asked. You go in, you talk to her, you keep her talking. We need her to confess, to admit she killed Michael, that she tried to kill Ethan. You'll be wearing a wire. We'll record everything. One of the officers pulled out a small device the size of a button, showed me how it worked. It would go on my clothes, right below my collar. It transmitted everything in real time. It also had a panic button. If I pressed it 3 times in a row, they would move in immediately, no matter what. We spent the next few hours going over every detail, every possible scenario. What to do if Vanessa was armed? What to do if she wasn't alone? What to do if something went wrong? My head was spinning with information. At 8, they made me eat a ham sandwich that tasted like cardboard. But I swallowed every bite. I needed energy. I needed to be alert. At 10, they put the wire on me, tested the audio over and over, had me say phrases, count to 10, yell, whisper, making sure everything worked perfectly. Remember, Rosa said, looking me straight in the eye, you are not alone in there. I'll be listening to every word. The team will be yards away. At the slightest sign of real danger, we are coming in. I won't let anything happen to you. I nodded. I wanted to believe her, but fear was a cold snake coiled in my stomach. At 11:15, we moved out. I drove my own car. Rosa ducked down in the passenger seat so she couldn't be seen from outside. The other teams were already in position, she informed me over the radio. Snipers in position, rear team ready, perimeter secured. We arrived at the warehouse at 11:40. It was exactly as I remembered it. Old, decrepit, broken windows, graffiti-covered walls. Michael and I used to come here when he was a boy. We would fish off the pier behind it. Simpler times. Happier times. Rosa got out of the car in a blind spot, disappeared into the shadows. I was alone. I looked at the clock. 11:55. I closed my eyes, thought of Michael, of his smile, of how he called me Mom in that affectionate tone, of what it would have been like to see him as a father. I thought of Ethan, of his future, of all the things he deserved to have. A life without fear, without threats, without shadows. Midnight? My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Come in, alone, now. I got out of the car. The night air was cold. I could see my breath. I walked toward the main door of the warehouse. Every step sounded too loud in the silence. The door was ajar. I pushed it. It creaked. The sound echoed off the empty walls. Inside it was dark, almost completely black. Only a little moonlight came through the broken windows, creating strange shadows. Vanessa, I called out. My voice sounded small, scared. Close the door, a voice said from the shadows. Vanessa's voice. I closed the door. My eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness. And then I saw her, standing in the center of the warehouse, wearing dark clothes, black jeans, a hooded sweatshirt. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was short, dyed blonde, but it was her. You came, she said. She sounded almost surprised. You said you wanted to talk. I said I wanted my son and the money. Where are they? I want answers first. I want to know why. Why did you kill Michael? Why did you try to kill Ethan? She laughed, that same cold sound I had heard on the phone. Why do you think, Maggie? For the money. It was always about the money. Michael loved you. He gave you everything. Michael was a romantic fool. He talked about love and family in the future. I wanted freedom. I wanted to travel, to live, not be tied to a house and a crying baby. Then why did you marry him? Because he was an engineer. He made good money. He had savings. He had life insurance. It was an investment. I was going to wait 5 years, divorce him, take half of everything. But then I got pregnant, and it ruined my plan. Her words were poison. Everyone burned me. You told him you didn't want the baby. Of course I didn't want it, but Michael became impossible. He changed his will, everything for the baby, so I had to adapt. If Michael died while I was pregnant, I'd collect the insurance, but the baby would inherit the rest. So the solution was simple. Kill Michael, have the baby, kill him too. Keep everything. She was confessing. Everything. Every word recorded, transmitted. The police were listening. But I needed more. You hired Carlos to sabotage the brakes. $2,000. A bargain considering I got $200,000 from the insurance. Best investment of my life. And the baby, your own son. He was an obstacle, nothing more. I gave birth alone in a cabin I rented with cash. No one knew I was pregnant. I wore baggy clothes, avoided people. When he was born, I thought about just leaving him somewhere, but then I remembered the lake, where you and Michael used to go. It seemed poetic to end everything where your little family tradition began. I felt sick. I felt rage. I felt all the hate in the world concentrated on the woman standing in front of me. But you failed. I saved him. Yes, that was annoying, but it doesn't matter, because now I'm going to finish the job. Where is Ethan, Maggie? I'm not giving him to you. It wasn't a question. And then I saw the gun. She pulled it from her sweatshirt, small, black, pointing directly at my chest. I pressed the panic button. Once, twice, 3 times. You are never going to touch him, I said. Her finger moved to the trigger. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. I saw the flash. I heard the shot. I felt something hit my shoulder. Hot. Burning. I fell backward. And then the warehouse exploded with motion. Doors burst open, blinding lights, shouting voices. Police! Drop the weapon, now! I saw Vanessa turn, saw the guns pointed at her, saw she was surrounded, saw that she had lost. And for a second, I thought she was going to shoot again. I thought she was going to make them kill her. But she lowered the gun slowly, let it drop to the floor. She raised her hands. 3 officers tackled her, pinned her face down, cuffed her. She was screaming, curses, threats. But it didn't matter. She was under arrest. It was over. Rosa ran to me, knelt beside me. Maggie, stay with me. I'm okay, I managed to say, though the pain in my shoulder was excruciating. You got her. Tell me you got her. We got her. It's over now. Stay still. The ambulance is on its way. I closed my eyes. It was enough. It was over. It was finally over. I woke up in the hospital. Again. But this time was different. This time it wasn't desperation I felt, but relief, peace. My shoulder ached where the bullet had torn through muscle but missed bone. Lucky, the doctor said. 2 inches to the left and it would have been your heart. Helen was sitting by my bed, holding Ethan. When I opened my eyes, she smiled. Look who's awake, she said, coming closer. Someone missed you very much. I took Ethan with my good arm, cradled him against my chest. He smelled of powder and innocence. He started making little noises, those small sounds babies make when they're happy. Hello, my love, I whispered. Grandma's okay. Everything is okay now. Rosa showed up an hour later. She brought flowers and a tired smile. How are you feeling? Like I've been shot, but alive. What happened with Vanessa? Arrested. Charged with first-degree murder for Michael, attempted murder for Ethan, attempted murder for you, plus a list of other crimes. Conspiracy, fraud, obstruction of justice. She's going to spend the rest of her life in prison, no possibility of parole. The words were sweet as honey. Justice. Finally. The recording worked perfectly. She confessed to everything. Her lawyer tried to argue coercion, that you forced her to say those things, but the jury saw the whole video. They saw her pull the gun, fire. They had no mercy. 30 minutes of deliberation. Guilty on all charges. When was the trial? You've been out for 3 days. The bullet did more damage than they initially thought. They had to operate twice. But you're going to make a full recovery. According to the doctors, 3 days. I had lost 3 days. I looked at Ethan, alarmed. Helen took care of him, Rosa said quickly. And Father O'Brien helped. That baby was spoiled by half the town while you were resting. Over the next few weeks, I recovered slowly. Physical therapy for my shoulder was painful, but necessary. Helen kept coming to help with Ethan when I couldn't lift him with my injured arm. Father O'Brien brought food. Neighbors I barely knew showed up with casseroles and kind words. "You're a hero," the lady from down the street said. "What you did for that baby, risking your life like that." But I didn't feel like a hero. I just felt like a grandmother doing what any grandmother would do, protecting her own. 2 months after Vanessa's capture, I had another hearing with the judge. This time was different. This time, the judge was smiling as she reviewed the documents. "Mrs. Walsh," she said, "I have reviewed all the reports from the last 6 months, the visits from social services, Ethan's medical evaluations, the progress reports, and I must say I am impressed." My heart was beating fast. "Ethan is thriving under your care. He is meeting all his developmental milestones. He is healthy, happy, loved, and you have proven to be more than capable, despite the challenges. Thank you, Your Honor. Therefore, I am granting full and permanent custody of Ethan to Margaret Walsh, effective immediately. Furthermore, since the biological mother is incarcerated for life and has lost all her parental rights, I authorize adoption proceedings if you wish to proceed. Adoption, to make him legally mine, not just his custodial grandmother, but his legal mother. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Yes, I want to adopt him." "Then, so it shall be. Congratulations, officially." The gavel fell, and suddenly all the weight I had been carrying for months lifted. It was official. Ethan was mine. No one could ever take him from me. Ever. I walked out of the courthouse with Ethan in my arms. He was 8 months old now, chubby and happy. He smiled, showing 2 little teeth. He laughed when I bounced him. He pulled my hair with his chubby little hands. Helen was waiting outside with Father O'Brien. They hugged me. The three of us cried with happiness right there on the courthouse steps. "You did it," Helen said. "Against all odds, you did it." That night, I made a special dinner, as special as it could be with a baby needing constant attention. I invited Helen and Father O'Brien. We ate roast chicken and rice. We toasted with apple juice because none of us drank alcohol. "To Ethan," Father O'Brien said, raising his glass, "to his bright future." "To Michael," I said, "who is watching over us from somewhere, proud of his son." "To love," Helen added, "which always conquers evil." We drank, we ate, we laughed. Ethan banged on his high chair and squealed with joy, not understanding but feeling the happiness around him. The months turned into years. Ethan grew. He started walking at 11 months. His first word was gamma, for grandma. I cried when he said it. At 2, he was running all over the house. At 3, he started preschool. Every milestone was a miracle, every day a gift. I talked to him about Michael constantly, showed him pictures, told him stories. "Your daddy was a good man," I would tell him. "Brave. He loved you even before he met you. He gave his life protecting you." "Daddy hero," Ethan would say in his little voice. "Yes, my love. Daddy was a hero, and you are going to grow up to be just as good, just as brave, just as loving." I never told him about Vanessa. That would come later, when he was older, when he could understand. For now, he just needed to know he was loved, that he was wanted, that there were people who had fought for him. On Ethan's 5th birthday, we had a party in the backyard. We invited all the neighborhood kids. There were balloons, cake, presents. Ethan ran among his friends. laughing, so full of life, so different from the purple still baby I had pulled from the lake 5 years ago. Helen sat next to me on the porch, watching the celebration. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. That day, I admitted. How I could have been 5 minutes later. How I might not have looked out the window at that exact moment. How everything could have been different. But it wasn't. You found him. You saved him. It was your destiny. Or Michael's, I said. Sometimes I think he guided my eyes to the lake that day, that somehow he knew I would be there, that he could trust me to protect his son. Maybe, Helen said. Or maybe you're just an incredibly brave woman who refused to give up. That night, after everyone had gone home, after Ethan fell asleep, exhausted from all the excitement, I sat alone in the living room. I looked at the pictures on the wall. Michael as a baby, Michael at his graduation, Michael on his wedding day, and next to those photos, new ones, Ethan as a newborn in the hospital, Ethan taking his first steps, Ethan on his first day of school. 2 generations, connected by love, separated by tragedy, united by survival. "We did it, Michael," I whispered to his picture. "Your son is safe. He's happy. He's growing up strong and good, just like you wanted." And though I knew he couldn't answer, I felt something, a warmth, a peace, as if he were there, proud, grateful, at peace. I don't know what the future holds. I know there will be challenges. I know there will be hard days. I know raising a child at my age won't be easy. But I also know that every day with Ethan is a gift. Every smile, every hug, every "I love you, Gamma." If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something, leave me a comment. Give it a like, subscribe. It means the world to us. Because these stories are about real people facing impossible situations. And they deserve to be heard. They deserve to be remembered. They deserve to matter. And to you, Ethan, if you ever read this when you're older, I want you to know you were loved before you were even born. Your father died protecting you. I would have done anything to save you. And every second of these years with you has been worth every sacrifice. You are my reason, my purpose, my second chance at being a mother. And I wouldn't change a thing.